Yeah, that doesn't look awesome. And this will basically be your new frame, right? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to work on that Jeep and see if we can fix the rusted, rotted out frame and get this thing ready to be back on the road. Guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, I am Joby, the Natural Gearhead. This is my 2002 Jeep TJ that we have named Linda Lou. This Jeep has been on the channel a few times in a few different episodes. We did road trip it 1,100 miles back down here to Florida. It lived up north all its life before that. This has been in my family since brand new, and the salt has done a toll on the frame. It rotted the frame, especially in the center where that cross member bolts up to the bottom. Which is not good because that holds the transmission, engine, everything in, right? And the frame, you kind of need it, right? So we're going to go in, try to repair that. We have to cut out all the old frame, and I've got new steel that we're going to slide on, weld that in place, hopefully making this vehicle safe and roadworthy again so that we can get out and actually enjoy it for what it was intended for. Take it down to the beach, do some four-wheeling. I got a winch I want to put on the front of this thing, and go out and have some fun with it. But I've never done this repair before, so hopefully it goes okay, but you know how that goes around here. Hey, stay tuned, watch the video, and we're basically going to show you the whole process and see how this thing comes out. And it either go good or we're going to end up taking this thing to the junkyard. I hope not, but we'll see what happens. Here we go. All right, so you can see up in here, this is where the cross member bolts up to the frame. And these plates right here, here and here, I just kind of welded on before the trip to make sure it didn't fall down on the 1,100 mile trip. We've got a little bit of rust up here towards the front body mount. And they did repair some frame up in here before. Yeah, that doesn't look awesome. Let's look at the other side. Coming over to the passenger side, maybe we got a little bit better over here. Yeah, not really. Pretty scaly. It should not look like that. That should just be a solid piece of metal bolted up to the bottom of the frame. And you can actually see, so the bolt bolts up through here, and you can actually see the bolt where it is not attached to the frame anymore. But the frame looks good here. And it looks okay back there. Hopefully there's enough metal to weld to. It looks all right. I believe this is most of what I'm gonna need to help repair this frame. Okay, so I've got some Rust-Oleum. This is Reform and Seal. It's actually rusting from the inside out because there's no drain holes, and sand, salt, dirt, whatever gets in there and just rots it out from the inside out. I've got a bunch of just cheap black spray paint, actually weld-through primer. I'll use this to spray on some of the areas before I weld it up to make sure that doesn't rust. And the pieces that we're using, it's just the center piece. And this piece right here, it's basically like a piece of channel. It's got the curvature of the frame. The theory is cut out a little bit less than the thickness of this, you know, like cut that frame out to about right here. And once the whole bottom's cut out, and then you're gonna slide this up over, hope it fits, and basically just weld all the way around this thing. And this will be your new frame, right? You'll have the top cap left. This will weld on to the bottom of that, and this will be the bottom half of your frame. And the nuts are welded in already. For the skid plate to bolt up to, it comes with bolts to bolt up your skid plates. Next thing we gotta do is get all that apart. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. So everything's rusted. So if you've worked on anything from the north, you know bolts will strip and break off and whatever, and rust falling in your face and in your eyeballs, gets in your mouth. Should be pretty straightforward. Oh boy. So mine has these optional side steps. Those have to come off for, oh geez. Yep, all right. So they bolt onto the side of the frame here. These bolts do not look good, but they gotta come off so I can access the whole side of this frame, because the pieces that slide on do not have provisions for these. So I'll get these off and out of the way. All right, just wanted to give you a quick update. I got these brackets for the steps. If you have these steps on your Jeep, I unbolted them from here on the step to get these out of the way. And now I'm able to access these bolts with an extension and the big old impact gun. Let me show you what's holding them in there. Inside the frame, they have like kind of a U-bolt with an odd shape. So that's what's holding them on there. So just lubricate it, hit it with an impact gun, and hopefully you can get your brackets off and possibly use them. Or if they're completely rotted, don't use them. I don't even know if I'm gonna put these back on, but just a little update on that. Right, so the trans mount's got 4 bolts here, 4 nuts. So I'm gonna try to zing these off, see how that goes. See if we can get these out with the impact gun real quick. I need eye protection since half the Jeep's gonna fall on my face. Oh boy. All right, here we go. Get some iron in my diet, all that rust in my mouth. All right, let's see if we can get the nut back out of this socket and we'll move on to the other 3. Perfect. Nope. Yep, that's stuck too. Socket don't want to go on there since it's got rusty nuts. You gotta hammer it on. Yep. Might not have a Jeep left when we're done taking it apart. Oh boy, yep, that one's stuck. All right, go hammer that out. All right, last one. Coming in hot. Oh, jeez. Yep, that's hot. I'm gonna go ahead and get my jacks and kind of lift up on the motor and transmission and get the weight off of this cross member and start trying to tackle those bolts over there. See if we can get this out of the way. It's going pretty smooth so far. Oh boy, all right. All right, so I got the jack in here. This is rated for 1,500 pounds, more than enough than we need. I got a piece of wood on top of it. It's under the transmission pan and it is lifted up just enough to take the weight off the cross member mount for the transmission there. So it's got a little bit of a gap. Now we're gonna work on these bolts for the skid plate cross member. Like I said, the nuts are welded into the frame that is rotted. So these are probably just gonna spin or break off whilst dropping half the Jeep on my face. So here we go. Yep, that's not moving. Nope. Nope. A little bit more. Nope. Boy, that one's on there. All right, let's try the next one. Maybe some ear protection. Stand by. Wow, that's on there. All right. Here we go. Look at that. That's a tick. Oh, that came right up. Oh, never mind. I spoke too early. Came some of the way out. All right. Yes. I'm gonna run another stand right here in the center, just in case, so that the skid plate doesn't fall and hit me in the head. Wow. All right. Let's try the other side for a minute, huh? Come back to this. Let that marinate. It knows we mean business, so it'll probably just start loosening up on its own while we're on the other side here. Here we go. All right, next. Jeez. Next. So we got one. All right, we're going to fire. She's nice and hot now. Oh yeah, that was the ticket. Nice. All right, try it again. There it goes. Sweet. Woo, that's hot. All right, other side. That one's loose. All right, all the brackets are cut. Theory, I lower this. Should come down without anything dropping and killing me. Oh, she's got a little weight to her. Yep, a lot of rust. Oh, there's a lot of rust on her. Yep. Hands in my mouth. Here we go. Oh, jeez. Oh, yeah, that's a big one right there. But overall, Oh, never mind. I was going to say overall it looks pretty good, but I don't know. Might not need. This is probably the frame, right? Could be part of the skid plate. I don't know. Might do a repair to this. How's this side looking? This side's not as bad as long as you don't look at like this area right here. If you don't look at that, like this, not too bad, right? All right, let's move this out of the way. Skid plate's out of the way. There's, some of these pieces that came off are pretty substantial. Yeah, oh, we got, here's a hole all the way through, right there. Oh, yeah, this is where the bolt was. Wow. Yeah, that's no good. No good there. So the whole bottom of the frame is completely gone here, but the sides are still solid. I can't squeeze it. I think I'm gonna have to get rid of this exhaust because there's not a lot of room between here, and once I get this all cut out, and cutting it out would make it easier too to have this out of the way. But once my cap's on there to weld around this might be in the way, so I may just cut the exhaust up here towards the front, and the muffler is pretty shot anyways. If you look at the muffler, you know, she's probably due for a new muffler. So I might just cut that off right here and just pull this whole unit out. Get it out of the way. Then on this side, we've got brake lines, fuel lines, all this stuff's got to come out of the way. Let me start working on some of this. I'll cut this exhaust out of here and get it out of the way and maybe move some of these lines, and I'll get back to you. All right, we got updates. I cut out all the exhaust right after the muffler and up there towards the front out of the way. So that frees up a lot of space to be able to go in here and have some room for activities. So let's go to the outside real quick, and basically made a chalk line for a cut line there all the way across. It's much shorter than this piece, but it looks like I'll be into good metal that I can weld to. Once I get that fitting good, I'm gonna start sliding this into place, mocking it up, and then I'll get my skid plate back out and temporarily bolt it to the other side and make sure that it lines up with the bowl holes on this side and kind of run it in. And that way I know left to right, this is where this needs to be. So let me get the cutter out and just start making sparks and melting metal. The plasma cutter does not like rust because it's not very conductive. Got it. Okay, so we got the frame cut out. I'm gonna go and grind and clean a lot of this up, and then we'll start kind of fitting this piece up, seeing how it fits. Make sure we got enough to weld to all up in here, take more out if I need to. This thing is looking really good. We got this piece all fitted up. I had to cut out around the body mounts a little bit more, give it more clearance. There's just plenty of room to weld, and it's gonna come out sweet. I did not mock up the skid plate yet, but once I get it mocked up and dialed in, and I know this is where it needs to be, I'm gonna put a couple self-tapping screws through here just to mark this so it will not move. I know exactly where it is. And then I'm gonna take the skid plate off. I'm gonna make my chalk line all the way around this so I know where my weld areas is. And then I'm going to, before I take it down, I'm gonna go to the other side, get it in the exact same place as this side will be, put the skid plate back up, all that, make sure everything matches with this side and it's all good to go. Then I'll take both sides down, paint the frame inside and out, paint the inside of these new pieces with that rust reform and all that, get my weld primer on here, all that, get it ready to go, get it back up, put my self-tapping screws in so I know it's exactly where it needs to be, start tacking it in, welding it in, pull the self-tappers out, weld those holes up, and this thing should be ready to go for the road. It's that easy. Uh-huh. Looks like this body mount's already hitting right here. And we got a big old gap over here in the back. So we're gonna need to trim that. So I'm gonna get my chalk, kind of mark that. I'm gonna mark both because this one's about to hit and we got a big gap. Let me get this down and trim it up real quick. So I'll go ahead and get a file and file that down and we'll start fitting it again. Trimming that metal out worked perfectly. We're nice and flush right here in the back, all the way around. You can see where we trimmed out the mounts a little bit, trimmed out this mount, and we're nice and flush in the front. So next thing, get the skid plate back in here and see if it still fits and lines up with the other side. If it does, I'll go ahead and put my self-tapping screws in here. And that way it'll locate this thing. So after I pull it down and go back up, I know that once those self-tappers are lined up, it'll be dialed in and perfectly aligned. So I'll be able to pull all this apart and start painting. We got 3 bolts on each side. They're not tight, but they are in and everything is aligned. I'm gonna pull the skid plate back down and then basically pull everything apart and start painting and let it dry overnight. All right, guys, so a lot has happened. I took a break, made some mistakes, had to fill up the old tank, you know what I mean? Did what we said, we took everything apart. We had located everything with the tech screws, took it all apart, and then let me flip you around here. Here is the new pieces, which I have coated. So the insides are coated, but the outside is not, but just the inside to keep that from rusting. Come over to the Jeep. But basically I coated where the 2 pieces are gonna sandwich together. So I coated all that in the Reform and Seal, and then all that gray you see is a weld-through primer. I ground down all the weld areas and then sprayed a weld-through primer over the whole frame. All up inside the frame is coated in the Reform and Seal also. Both sides are ready to go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let that stuff dry overnight, and hopefully in the morning it will be ready to go. Also, I'm gonna go ahead and sweep this up before I go in tonight because there was a rat nest in the frame. It's disgusting. And also, if you look, you can see half the Jeep is just laying on the ground in little itty bitty pieces. That's not good, but you know, this thing's getting lighter by the minute. It's basically a Pro Mod Jeep. 4 liters of fury, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, not really. So I'm beat, so I'm gonna get this all cleaned up and go to sleep. So I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, so it's a new day and everything is dried and is looking really nice and coated and protected. So these are ready to be slid back onto the Jeep and secured in place, and I'll start wire wheeling around the edges once I get everything secured and in place. That way I can get ready to start welding this all in. As for the exhaust, I'm gonna be replacing that also. This muffler was leaking and it's completely rotted out, and the resonator, basically this whole piece, I'm gonna replace. I'm gonna try to save and utilize the exhaust hanger there, but I've got like a universal kit coming and a universal muffler, and I'll replace all this with that stuff. The muffler, all the pipes, everything, it was like $100. So not crazy expensive, and it'll replace all this rusted stuff. I'll weld it in. I think I'm gonna do a little side exit exhaust. Be kind of cool. So let me get this stuff mocked back up in there, and I'll get ready to start wire wheeling and start hopefully welding this thing in. Get it one step closer to being back on the road. Yes. This thing's got some weight to it. This skid plate will be getting replaced because it's pretty rotted on the outside edges. I could probably repair it. I found a pretty affordable one, and I'm gonna go ahead and just replace it, but it will not be in for about 10 days. So gotta wait on that, but I'll be able to temporarily install this one and it'll be just fine until we get the replacement. Okay, so the transmission mount bolts are in and aligned. Now the bolts that come with the replacement frame pieces are just a standard bolt, and you can see that the skid plate is supposed to have these conical style, right? So that makes a big difference for centering everything, but I ordered some new ones of these because some of these are in pretty rough shape, but for now, this will work just to get us lined up and make sure everything's gonna work. Sweet. All right, all the bolts are started and in and lined up. I know that this is right where we need it, so I'm good to go with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all this back apart, wire wheel around those frame rails, and start tacking it into place. Should be good to go. We'll burn this all the way in, and we're one step closer. Whew. That was a lot of welding. All right, so we got everything fully welded, the whole perimeter on both sides, fully welded in, ready to go. So now I'm gonna wipe everything down in alcohol or acetone, one or the other, and get my Rust-Oleum Reform and Seal and coat everything and seal this in. Then I'll just be waiting on parts. I'm waiting on a new cross member to come because ours is rotted on both sides, and waiting on that exhaust kit I told you about earlier to come in so we can run the exhaust on this Jeep. So for now, I'll get it wiped down, get it coated, and let it sit so I get my parts, and we'll go from there. Okay, so frame is coated. Let that dry overnight, and then we're waiting on parts again. Those parts, continue the journey. All right, guys, so we are back. It's been about a week. The paint is obviously fully cured, plus I used a spray paint over the whole thing to really seal that in real good, make sure that's good. Parts are in, let's check them out real quick. So the cross member / skid plate is in, fresh from Amazon, ready to go. Got the universal exhaust kit, 2.5-inch version. Got this from eBay, that's in, ready to go. We got the Amazon special, $20-some Flowmaster knockoff muffler. This is the original hanger off the original stock exhaust. I cut it off, and I'm gonna utilize that to try to support this in the stock location and to kick it out right in front of the back tire kind of deal. Make it shorter and eliminate a lot of weight and rust, I guess. So should be better when we're done. We'll mock all the exhaust up and then probably pull it all back apart, fully weld that, install that, and then get this fully installed and hopefully have this thing ready for a little test drive. Yeah. Here we go. Nope. Oh, jeez. Are you still in there? Sorry. Woo. It's heavier than I thought. All right, here we go. Let's get her lined up. Okay, skid plate's up there and snug. Now I'll lower the trans. Make sure our mount still lines up. Bolts are in, and the weight is now on the cross member. So that's all in place. So now I'm gonna start mocking up my exhaust and just kind of seeing how it all lays out in here and try to kick it out the side. I'm gonna try to bring it right through here and then come down and kind of kick it out right here in front of the tire and see how it looks. But it looks like we have enough clearance. I just gotta make sure everything's gonna live in here and be happy. So let me start sliding exhaust pipe in here and the muffler and kind of see where it's all gonna fall, start marking stuff. And then we can tack it together, pull it all back apart, weld it up, and hopefully it should be ready. Okay, we got our first piece cut to a rough estimate of the length that we need. So we'll drop that all the way in. I will put a clamp at the front up there. That's what'll hold it in place. Got our factory hanger bracket. I'll slide it into place so I can get it mocked up, and then I'll be able to tack it. So that looks good. And then our muffler will sit about right in here-ish, and this will come out something like this-ish and kick out the side. I think that'll look pretty cool. It'll look a little bit hot rod. So that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna get this bracket kind of placed there. I'll tack it in place. I'll weld everything from here back together, and then I'll just have the clamp in the front up there. So if I ever need to take the exhaust back off, just loosen that clamp. This is short enough to where it'll slide right out. So we'll get this tacked up. I also still need to remove all the tailpipe stuff back here, and it looks pretty rusty and pretty crusty. So I don't know if it'll come out or if I'm gonna have to cut it out, but either way, it'll come out. Okay. Knocked my microphone off, but it didn't break, so that's a plus. Anyway, so this is all welded up. Next up, will be getting the tailpipe on and final fitment, but not gonna do that yet because it's still really, really hot. So while this cools down, I'm gonna remove the original tailpipe, get that out of the Jeep, out of the way, so I don't forget about it and it's rattling around in there. So let me rip that out real quick. Come on, come on. That's some old rubber. Get a little bit of spray, a little bit of, all right, give her a little spritz. Whoa, all right. There it goes. Come on. Yay! Oh, there's another one in the back. All right, moving to the back. Ah, all right. Oh, come on. Try the other way. Nope. I'll knock the camera over. Sorry if I do. Yes. Out of the way. Whew. She's rusty. So I trimmed this piece up already to the length I need, and I'm thinking it's gonna kick out something like this. So I had a CJ5 back in the day with a 304, had headers, a muffler, and just a little tailpipe, just like this, kicked out the side, and I always loved that. I thought it was really cool. So this is kind of a throwback to that. And so I'm gonna get this marked, tacked in, put it back on the bench, weld it all the way around. I may put a hanger over here on this frame, I'm not sure yet. But let me get it tacked, weld it up, and we'll go from there. This is solid, but I feel like I'd be more comfortable if I had a hanger right here at the back, but I want it removable, and I can't bolt into the frame because I can't access the inside of the frame now that it's fully boxed in with this piece. So I cut off all the old hangers, and I can use something like this. I went ahead and added the hanger. Let me show you real quick. I welded this hanger on right here. It utilizes this rubber grommet right here. So we've got the piece welded here, and then this piece welded onto the frame, so that will allow this tailpipe to be supported real nice. This is the completed project here. It's gonna be lighter, it's gonna be more high performance. I'm not sure how the Straight 6 4.0 will sound through in a muffler like this. I'm kind of curious. I do like the side exit, and we got the 2 hangers. This should be well supported and leak free. So I'm gonna get this installed, and where I get the cross member tightened up and see what it sounds like. Front here, I'm using a sleeve style clamp. I like these a lot better because a regular muffler clamp will crimp this basically, and when you go to remove it later on, if you ever need to, it makes it very difficult to remove the exhaust pipe. So this does not do that. It'll go on just like this. You can see that it's tapered to go to the bigger outside diameter of the pipe, and it'll clamp on there. It'll be leak free, and we can remove this later if we need to, which is really nice. So everything is in and torqued, the transmission mount, the cross member bolts, the exhaust is on, my hangers are on, clamps are tight, all the fuel lines are ran back where they should be and clamped to the frame rail with some Adele clamps. Check this out real quick. So this is the rust pile that is left from the Jeep. So we have a lot of weight reduction going on here. I don't know if you can see how big that is, but that is a massive pile of rust. This is just stuff that has fell off the bottom of the Jeep as we did this process. A little bit of rat nest in there too. So if you are doing a job like this on a rusty Jeep, make sure you have your safety glasses on because you don't want the stuff in your eyeballs. Next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and lower this Jeep and fire it up and see what that exhaust sounds like so I can get out and start enjoying this thing. All right, also, as you can see, I'm not re-adding the steps. See the steps that were on there already, the little running boards, because you have to like drill more holes into the frame that we just put in and put little slots so that it can hook in there and bolt in. I'm not dealing with that. It gives it a little more ground clearance like this. I think it looks good like this. I'm gonna leave them off. Still got plenty of exhaust left, so that's good for another project. So next thing, just fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. As you can see, you can just barely see it peeking out down there. So it's nice and just kind of hidden. I like that. And if there's any leaves around, it'll just blow them things everywhere. Basically a leaf blower. Actually sounds pretty good. And it's pretty loud. I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty loud. It's still cold, so it's gotta idle down a little bit. I'm curious what it'll sound like once it idles down. All right, so there it is, all idled down. I think it actually sounds pretty good. It's pretty throaty for a 6-cylinder. I guess that straight 6 gives it that little bit of a throaty sound. I like it. And I like that it's hidden, and it's really no lower than stock. That thing kicked down pretty low in the back. This isn't any lower than stock. It's not lower than my suspension, so I like how it looks. I think it'll function just fine, and it sounds cool. So we're gonna wrap it up right there. Old Linda Lou is back on the road. It is gonna be safe. The frame is completely repaired, new cross member, new exhaust, and it sounds really good, and it looks cool. Side exit, pretty cool. So this thing's ready to go. Get back out on the trails, get on the road, and start having some fun. So hopefully you learned something from this. I'm hoping that if you're doing this frame repair that you maybe have a good idea of the process and what it takes to actually do it. And while you're in there, you might need an exhaust. Maybe got some ideas from that too. You might not want to do what I did, but you know, it's easy. You can do it at home. And I think the whole exhaust system, and I have all that stuff left. I think I've got maybe, I don't know, $100 in it. So not too bad. And it sounds a lot better, and it's going to let it perform and breathe a little bit better. So again, I appreciate everybody watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all those YouTube things. It really does help out the algorithm, pick up the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.